Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team, and the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Boy, what hasn't changed in the last month? I'll tell you what, there's a lot of businesses that are just barely hanging on, and some of them are going to be forced to close and sell before they were planning to do so. Joining me now to talk about that, Denise Logan. She is known as the Seller Whisperer. Denise, thanks for coming on the show.
Hi, Jeff. It's so nice to see you.
Yes. So people will engage you when they're trying to make a smooth transition, selling a business. Maybe a father or mother is passing it on to their kids or selling it to someone else. What do you see happening now that the world has been turned upside down?
So many of our business owners are struggling with the decision, should I stay or should I go? Is this the right time to sell? And many of them who were hoping to sell when the market was high will feel a lot of distress at being caught where we are now. Some of them will be thinking, well, I'll just last it out for the next 5 years and rebuild the business. And some will realize, I just don't think I can do that.
You know, a lot of people underestimate how emotional it is to sell a business. You're probably part counselor and therapist, aren't you?
Yeah, and my background is I came from a life as a mental health professional and then a lawyer. And I watched deals unraveling for all the reasons that were not being said. And as strong as the lawyers and bankers and deal professionals are, they're not really prepared to deal with the emotion of what's happening for a person going through a big transition. Mostly they'll deal with it as a transaction, and that often leaves the owner feeling left out and frightened and angry sometimes, and that plays out in the deal.
Is that why you wrote your book, The Seller's Journey?
I did. In fact, that book is written as a business fable. So it's set up 1 year after the sale of a business. The business owner goes on a trip across Glacier National Park with his banker, his lawyer, his wealth manager, and the buyer who bought his firm. And so many times what we see, Jeff, is that folks at the end of the sale of their business can't stand anyone who is on the deal with them. And the number one cause of deals collapsing is seller's remorse. So I wrote the book as a way for business owners to see what it could be like going through a more carefully run process, and especially what to look forward to on the other side.
If someone is thinking about selling in the future, when should they begin preparing for that sale?
Oh my gosh, you should always prepare early, but isn't that true for almost everything that goes on in our life, that we're often caught fully unprepared and have to deal with life as it comes? So if I had my druthers, I think it would probably be about 2 years before you sell, that you begin thinking of it. But I recognize the reality is that I often come into a transaction at the moment when things have unraveled and everyone is worried about whether the deal will happen.
And a lot of business owners I know are not financially preparing for the sale to make money. If they're running their business to write off as much as they can, their profit sheet doesn't reflect very well, and they don't have much value, do they?
Right. And while I don't deal with the financial aspects of preparing the business for sale, one of the things that I'm aware of is I'll often ask an owner, what does work provide for you? Because it's easy for the transaction professional members of the deal team to focus on the money that you'll get. And often owners are looking at, this is their single largest asset. They've been hoping to harvest their wealth. What I see is that if we look at that question, what do you get? What does work provide for you? There are lots of things, and money is only one of those. For many of our owners, it's also a place where they can get away from their spouse. Everyone's thinking about that right now. It's where their friends are. It's where they get power. So we should be able to get 12 to 15 answers to that question of what does work provide? And recognizing those needs don't go away on the other side of the sale. So we start looking early at how will the owner get those needs met as well.
I know I've read a lot about this being the largest transfer of wealth in the history of mankind, the baby boomers passing it on to the millennials and Gen Z. I expect you're going to be very busy here in the next few years.
I think so. And you know, one of the tragedies, Jeff, is that only 1/3 of companies that go to the market to sell actually sell. That means 2/3 of those deals fall apart and the owner is left struggling, trying to figure out what to do with the business after that. So I'm on a bit of a mission to change that. I think it's a tragedy for someone to take their business to the market and not be able to close it.
Okay, we're almost out of time, so I'll give you kind of the final words of wisdom for anyone who's watching this video, who's thinking they may want to sell here in the next year or two. What's your words of wisdom?
So to remember that this is a transition even more than it's a transaction. And someone in every transaction is already handling those things that I talk about, but they typically don't like handling it. So it might be that you're dumping your emotion all over the exit, and there's a way to be able to have someone help you walk through that and make it all the way to the close and be happy about it.
Outstanding. You've been a great guest. DeniseLogan.com is the website. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
And that's it for now. We'll see you next time.